Hello everyone, Dr. Mark Di Pasquale here from Adjusted Chiropractic. Today we're talking more healthy news. Today we're talking about the immune system and what the immune system goes through when it is under viral load, when it's fighting off a virus, when it's fighting off an infection. Everyone needs to know this process of how to look after their immune system to make sure they can get through it quite healthy and move on. So one of the things here, we break up the immune system and how it functions, day 1 to day 5, day 5 to 10, day 10 to 15 and onwards. One thing to understand too is if we look before day 1 to 5, now what day 1 to 5 means, or day 1 is effectively days of day of symptoms. So the symptoms are when we're going through a cytokine storm. So it'd be like, we wake up and we've got a headache and sore throat and stuffy nose and all those sorts of things, like we've got a cold, we've got a flu. So day 1 of symptoms, pretty much. Now, before that, it's very important to make sure that the immune system has the nutrients and is supported before that, because if it goes into a fight with a virus and it is well supported, it is going to function much better throughout this whole process. So I'm going to show you the protocols for the basic immune system daily requirements, and it pretty much looks like this. But I'm also going to show you a special slide that we use to understand the protocols in more detail. Okay, let's take a moment just to go through the immune system protocols. Now, this is to keep the immune system boosted. So this is so we want to be doing this pretty much all the time. Now, it would be a huge benefit to the immune system if we were doing this in the autumn leading up to the winter. So this is when the immune system needs to be boosted as much as possible, because this is when it is the time where viruses and bacteria, this is when we're most likely to be infected with them. But under the circumstances that we're under at the moment, we want to be protected, and we want to have this basis of boosting the immune system, because we are dealing with a virus at the moment. And not only that, we're dealing with a mutating virus too, which it will continue to mutate as we continue to go forward. So we want to keep our immune system boosted, because we are going to continually have to face it. So if we have a look here, essentially what we need is, and just to keep it very basic, so vitamin D is very, very important. Vitamin C is important. OPCs, or a polyphenol, is important to get nutrients within the cells. These are the mechanisms that allow nutrients to get within our cells in our body. One that we trust and use is one called oligomeric proanthocyanidins, or OPCs for short. And then also optional, we have B6 and B12. And just a couple of short things on vitamin D. Vitamin D, there have been many, many studies showing that vitamin D is low on those who have high viral load. So those people who are infected with viruses generally have low vitamin D. And now you join the dots and you basically say, when the immune system lowers the amount of vitamin D, or there's not enough vitamin D in the system, this is what leaves us susceptible. Understandable why, and probably very understandable why we get less viruses and we get less infections in summer, because we're getting more sun, we're getting more vitamin D. It's just, the research and the science just says low vitamin D is a bad thing. Now, it's called a vitamin, but vitamin D is actually a hormone. So it is hugely important to processes in the body and in the immune system. There are a lot of processes in the body that uses vitamin D or the hormone of it. So to have it, and at 1,000 international units a day, is a nice, nice amount, a boosted amount. It's not, not a low amount for our immune system. Vitamin C is hugely important as well. This is well documented in the research. The interesting thing is that humans are the only species on planet Earth that can't make its own vitamin C. We have to actually ingest it. All other animals make it themselves. They actually synthesize it within their body. Humans can't do that, so we have to actually eat it. So vitamin C is hugely, hugely important. So the way that we recommend the easiest way to get these vitamins and minerals in is, for example, like this. We call this the immune system kit. It is the easiest way to get them in. So it has a multivitamin, which caters for our vitamin D, plus many other vitamins and minerals, or 21 other vitamins and minerals. Vitamin C at high doses, OPCs, which are the oligomeric proanthocyanidins at high doses too. Now, if we then do that or have that foundation of immune system support, what we're looking for then is we're waiting until, you know, we do have to put up a fight. So there's a cytokine storm. The viruses are making spike proteins. Those spike proteins are what our body is trying to get rid of, and this is why we get the symptoms. So then what we do is we actually up it to this second protocol, which I'm going to go through. But before I go through that, there's some important things that we need to go through. The most crucial time in a cytokine storm when we're fighting off a virus is day 1 to day 5. We've got to, and generally we've got to get it under control. The body has to get it under control by day 5. If it lasts longer than that, it is weakening the systems, and it leaves us susceptible to other infections, like from a bacteria or something like that. And that's where we start to get real problems. People don't actually succumb to viruses per se. They don't actually die from viruses or anything like that. They actually die from bacterial infections that super infect or infect on top of a suppressed system, or a system that is tired and has been fighting for too long. So that becomes the issue. So day 1 to 5 is very, very important. So really what we want to do is we want to up the dosages of our normal protocols by 5 times. We want to increase vitamin D intake. Look, we want vitamin D in there. We want vitamin C in there. We want all the other components, which I'm going to go through in 1 second in a separate slide once again. Now we're going to go through the immune system protocols for when the immune system is fighting a virus. So when there's a cytokine storm, meaning that we've got the symptoms, you know, the stuffy nose, the headaches, the sweating, the body is fighting off, it's trying to burn off the virus. It's called the cytokine storm. What's happening in that situation is our cells in our body, the viral proteins have gotten into our cells. The cells are replicating them or making more of them. They're splitting out of the cells. The cells are bursting open. And then those proteins, or those spike proteins, are out into the system, going into other cells, and they're doing the same thing. So it's called a viral load. And it happens more and more until the body can get rid of all these spike proteins, or get rid of the proteins out of the system, so that they stop infecting the cells. So it's essentially from the first day that we have symptoms, from the inkling that we have a symptom, we start upping the dosages with regards to the immune system protocol. So vitamin D, we up it 5 times. Vitamin C, we up it by 5 times. Zinc sulfate, we up it. Oligomeric proanthocyanidins, we up it 5 times. And we also, just footnote here at the bottom, you see, you know, with regards to high risk, are we at high risk? Do we have comorbidities? Do we need to be speaking to our doctor, or have we already spoken to our doctor? Do we need antivirals? Do we need antibiotics yet? Or do we just run this protocol for 5 days, get over it, and see whether we need any help after this? Very, very important. Now, the process of that, I outlined to you the immune system kit with the vitamins, multivitamin, the vitamin C, the proanthocyanidins. Now, the cost of that is $2.28 a day for all those dosages, if we're just on the basic boosting immune system protocol. So this protocol here, where we're fighting a virus for 5 days, we're 5 timesing that. So that's, look, it's $10, $11 a day. So 5 doses of each of those a day, about $11 a day for 5 days, to really give us the nutrients that is just going to supercharge and protect the immune system, or give the immune system the fuel that it needs to fight and fight and fight over 5 days. The issue we have is if one runs out of fuel, over this time period, and they start to succumb, the viral load increases, and then we're very susceptible to bacterial infections, etc. So once we actually do that, we're monitoring from day 1 to day 5, and we're continuing to get things like sleep and water, and we're allowing the body to, and the temperature of the body to rise, to burn off the virus, to shed out all the spike proteins that the viruses make. Now, day 5 to day 10 is important, because if we start to move to day 5 and we're not feeling better, or we're not getting over it, we're still struggling through, it's going to be a bit of an issue of monitoring between day 5 and 10, because the body may need some help. Now, the help we're generally talking about is, or we would want to be talking about, is things like which protect us from being infected by things like bacteria, such as antibiotics, and also if the body does need things like antivirals to slow down the viral process or the viral load process. So these are the things where we're just monitoring in day 5 to 10 to see whether we will actually need those. Now, it's very important to understand that definitely by day 5 to day 10, we're consulting a doctor, or we're asking the question of, do we actually need any extra help? It's no good just sitting at home, not feeling well, having a depleted system, not eating well, not having vitamins, getting more and more tired, because it's going to be, it could be a bad outcome, and therefore hospitalization, and therefore emergency. Generally, viruses in the early stages are not an emergency. The body is going through the right process, and it should actually rid it off, unless it's left too long or we have other complicating factors. Now, definitely by day 10 to day 15, if we haven't sort of kicked it off by then, this is danger period, so we need to be making sure that we're seeking medical care, talking to our doctors, making sure that if we do need antibiotics, antivirals, they're actually there. So that's pretty much the process, and that's why we break it down into those 3 steps: day 1 to 5, day 5 to 10, and day 10 to 15. Now, one thing to also keep in mind too is, if we are, say for example, a person at risk generally. So before any of this happens, are we at risk? Certain risk factors would be age. If we are older, generally if our health isn't as good as it should be, so we have heart conditions, heart issues, we've got diabetes, and we've got metabolic syndrome, things such as high blood pressure, diabetes, so heart, cardiovascular problems, whether it be immune system problems, lung problems, asthmas, whether we've had lung infections in the past, whether we've needed antibiotics in the past, those sorts of things. Now, generally that will be those in our population that are generally older and have been on medications for some time, but that doesn't exclude even younger people who may have certain conditions. Now, it's an assessment of their doctors, whether they are at risk. Because effectively, we may want them to be running this process and just monitoring, and then moving into day 5 to day 10, analysing whether they need antibiotics or any further care to prevent, a decline. But if one is at risk and they're at high risk, that assessment may be from the very start. So as soon as symptoms start, it might be, okay, on the antiviral straight away, on the antibacterial straight away, or the antibiotics straight away, so that we don't wait until it's too late. So this risk factor is pretty important. Most people in our community won't be at an immediate risk. They'll be at a monitoring process, vitamins, minerals, rest, water, steam, make sure we're trying to eliminate as much of the viral load as possible. Those who move to day 5 and day 10 and they're just not getting better will then need help, but most people will be past it at that point. And definitely by day 10 to day 15, this is where they will need help, and help from doctors and those who know how this process works. Now, finally, I do just want to touch on that those people that we do know that have gone through the viral load process with regards to the virus lately in families, etc. the advice that they have been given by the health department is pretty much stay home. And if you have any breathing difficulties, call 000 and then, you know, you'll basically go into hospital. Generally, it's what happens is when people stay at home, they start to get to this day 5 to day 10, day 15, whatever it is. You can't just sit at home and just, you know, wait until you've got breathing difficulties and then call 000 and then go into the hospital, and then the hospital has to then, you know, take emergency actions. We need to be in contact with our doctors this whole step along the way. And they should be helping us throughout this whole step along the whole way. One of the issues we may have, and this is what I don't agree with, is that doctors are scared of viruses, etc. at the moment, protecting themselves too much as far as I'm concerned. Generally, as a physician or as a doctor, you're supposed to put yourself in the way of your patients. You're supposed to put yourself at the mercy of your patients, meaning that, you know, I will not necessarily, you know, protect myself from anything that is coming, or that I need to protect myself if I have to look after my patients. So I hope that's sort of clear. As a physician, as a doctor, you take an oath that you will actually serve and you will help. So if that means going into the battlefield and, you know, taking a bullet, that's what doctors are implored to do. Okay, that's why we take our oath. So effectively, doctors shouldn't be stepping back and saying, oh, I'm scared of, you know, catching something or something happening to my health, because we should be on the front foot and we should be putting ourselves out there and helping our patients, because they're the ones who need the help through this process. And there's some cases which I have gone through and heard they have not received the help that they've needed when they've needed it at the crucial time, and it's been harder down the track. So please, I implore you, be in contact with your doctors before. You can always ask the question. The question is, when I'm exposed to the virus, what will I have to do? Okay, what modes of treatments will I need to take? Am I at risk? Will I just take my vitamins and minerals and just wait out that and I'll be fine? Will I need antibiotics? Will I need antivirals? Will I need to, you know, have a backup plan with hospitalization, etc.? This type of conversation should be happening with your doctor before an emergency event. So, yeah, so I implore you, if you have any questions, please contact me, any of our staff. Contact your physicians; they're there to help you. So that's it for today. That's the immune system and how we're all going to get through this. The reason why this is very, very important is because in Victoria, particularly in Melbourne, wherever you're watching this, if you are watching this from outside the state of Victoria, we have been in severe lockdowns for many, many months. And what that means is that has not allowed viruses to get out into our community as quickly as other places have, or as other countries actually have. So we are at a position where we will be having to, as we are opening up over the next couple of weeks and more people are out there, the viruses will go around more and more. So we will be going through this process. Now, we had a thought at the beginning that if the process had have worked with regards to vaccines, that we would be protected with regards to the vaccines, and then we wouldn't have to go through this process here. So we'd be immune and we wouldn't have to deal with the virus when we're exposed to it, because we've got protection. But unfortunately, viruses mutate. So that's not the outcome that is happening. And we're seeing in many, many different countries around the world, in that those who are vaccinated are getting the virus, those who are unvaccinated are getting the virus. We've got to face it sooner or later. So it's very important that we know this process here. So as we continue opening up, numbers of cases will go up, but we want to make sure that everyone is protected and looking after their health or their immune system, so that it creates immunity. We move on, and then we'll have minimal issues with regards to complications and also deaths, because they can actually be prevented. So any questions, please contact me. I'm here always on email here at the practice. If you do need to speak, if you need to contact any of our team, just do so. If you did like this video, please, and you are watching it on YouTube, just like it so that other people can be exposed to it and understand this very important message. Other than that, think about this. Make sure you've got this plan in place. Look after your health because no one else will. Okay, bye for now.